guest appearances, maybe?
No idea. No idea. The big new Marvel property that seems likely to venture into our show is the one that was just announced an hour ago, Ghost Rider. I don't think the show really is there to be a kind of platform for gratuitous crossovers. That said, you do see Nick Fury and Maria Hill from time to time when that's appropriate for the storytelling around the time of Winter Soldier. Now I think you might see some Marvel characters that work with the Robbie Reyes storyline of Ghost Rider. I think it's a really interesting idea. The idea of bringing Ghost Rider to our show. It's different than what we've done on our show. It hasn't really been kind of in the Inhuman world. It's a little bit more in the mystical part of the Marvel universe. I'm personally, just as someone who's a fan of the Marvel world, fascinated to see what version of Ghost Rider you get that makes sense in our world. I'm always looking for the scene where I walk into a bar accidentally and realize that it's completely populated with the Avengers, and I have some explaining to do, but that'll happen. That'll happen when the time is right.
You guys seem to, especially you, but you guys seem to be pretty well versed in the comics and stuff like that. Is there anything in particular that you guys are reading or into, or something you might like to see on the show other than Ghost Rider? That a new character maybe that Marvel's
on our show?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I love that you see characters, Inhuman characters, Quake, Hellfire, Hive. I love that the kind of characters that aren't in the movies, they get introduced on our show. At some point, I hope that those characters get their own movies, later down the line. And yet I like the way that our writers get the freedom to tell stories and bring in those kind of characters, but then find a way to really bring them to life in a way that works for our show. At some point, I of course, because I like that part of it, I'd like to see the stories cross over with all parts of the Marvel story. Netflix, it's just characters. I say Netflix because that's where you'll find it, but we have the same president from Ant-Man and the Marvel movies. Matt Murdock and Skye, when she was called that, were raised in the same orphanage.
Yeah.
At some point, it'd be cool to see the stories be told that way, but only when it really helps tell the story, not just, oh, cool.
My personal opinion about that is, I'm a fan of that. It would be great to have crossovers, but on this show, I don't think it's necessary because the writers and have done such a great job just building up the characters from the first season, just where the audience is now invested in the characters, so they just tell the stories on their own, and people are invested. Now to have the crossover, like I said, I'll be like, it's fun, but I don't think it's necessary.
Now that you guys are partners on the show, how has your kind of relationship changed? You respect Coulson respects you. How is that kind of thing? There's always been sort of kind of anger between you guys. How is that kind of
Friction.
Yeah, exactly.
I was never angry. You were mean.
I wasn't angry, man.
You mean like when you betrayed me and took over the base with your other partners?
Well,
I think one of the things I liked about the way they wrote Coulson last season was that even though Mac was so skeptical, Coulson welcomed that. When he took off to go get some vengeance, he puts Mac in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I understand where his skepticism comes from. I also think in his first response team, when the Inhumans started to pop up everywhere, it was Skye, Daisy, who was an Inhuman, and Mac, who was the most suspicious of them. And I thought that was an interesting leadership style. And although I do feel like I think they've earned their way to a better place, at least for now.
Yeah, but I always felt like Mac reflected the audience's point of view. Like, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? That's how I felt. Now, I don't think it always was justified. And I think Colson saw that.
Yeah.
It's mutual respect.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there was a big shake-up, obviously, at the end of last season. I don't mean that literally because of Quake. But where do you think your characters will be when season 4 begins?
Well, what we set up in the prologue, the epilogue of the last episode of last season is a jump 6 months, and you see that Quake has gone rogue. She's away from the squad. Looks like she's on her way to a Nine Inch Nails concert, and she's kind of a pissed off, angry person who's, I think Coulson understands, very guilty about what she did while under the sway of Hive, and the way that contributed to the factors that caused Lincoln's death. And she's blaming herself a lot, and I think that's where we start out. And the rest of the team clearly working in a new version of S.H.I.E.L.D. with a new director. And since we've only shot one day, all I can tell is we're a little bit split up and not quite sure. We aren't running the show anymore.
Gotcha.
So you guys, we met your little brother,
Oh yeah.
and Daisy's also been kind of like a little sister to you as well. And now, like, both of your siblings have been a little bit disappointing. Are we gonna see Matt kind of struggling with that? With dealing with siblings and what that means, and
Well,
being a big brother.
I do feel like Mac is like a big brother to Daisy. And it's weird, the dynamic. It's like Mac has been brought into this family. So you have May, you have Coulson, obviously Daisy, and now I'm brought into the family. And the problem is that one of the family members
Ran away.
ran away. And
And she's hurting. We know she's hurting.
we're trying to
I
find,
think she might be destroying a lot of stuff, but she's hurting.
and we could be trying to find a solution to that.
Yeah.
But will it be resolved? Is the question. Oh
Yeah,
boy,
'cause
that
she
was
was
good.
your
Huh?
partner.
That's a mic drop. Nice.
Because she was your partner. You guys were able to have a tight partnership. Anybody else?
I have one last question. When will we see Lola again? I'm a big fan of that car.
I love Lola. Lola she took a lot of damage. People messed with her a little bit.
But you don't touch Lola.
She took a lot of damage. Somebody touched Lola. Someone built a little mini Lola and scanned my office. But also, S.H.I.E.L.D. was on the run and deeply undercover, and you just, you roll up in the red 62 Corvette. It's not your typical undercover vehicle. That said, if I know my Mac, I have a feeling he might still be working on Lola. Maybe we'll see a rebuilt version of Lola at some point. Although they just introduced an awfully cool new car for the show.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that thing will fly.
Got goosebumps.
All right, thank